So I've been lucky enough in the years, and I've been a Laureus Sport for Good ambassador to visit projects all over the world, predominantly here in South Africa, but I visited a martial arts project in New York. I've been out into the favelas in Rio. I've seen kids playing rugby in Hong Kong. Visited a project playing basketball in a city, Paris. Every single one of these projects has exactly the same messaging to it. They're kids who, through simply getting to play sport and be kids again, see their lives change. And whether it's here in South Africa, whether it's in the other countries, the currency that is so often in short supply is hope. And sport has that ability to give those kids hope. And sometimes out of a project like this, Fight with Insight, which I love, I've been here many times, you'll get a kid who'll emerge as a champion, who'll turn that sport into their life. But that's really a bonus. For me, it's watching these kids who grow up in very challenging communities and very difficult spaces many of the times, and yet they're able to come through and through sport find something to believe in. And I've probably seen that more than most. The project that arguably means more than any of them to me, and that's a project in Northern Ireland where I was born and where I left when I was 4 years old because of the divide between Catholics and Protestants. My parents didn't want me brought up in that divided society, and there is a project, the Peace Players in Northern Ireland, where they're taking kids from either side of that divide and they're getting them to play together. And the Catholic-Protestant divide is a big one, and yet somehow here these kids are forgetting about where they come from, and they're just being kids, and they're learning to play together, and from there they're learning to live together. And that just encapsulates this immense power we have to take kids in difficult, challenging situations, set the rest of the big wide world aside for a while, and give them that opportunity to believe that there's something better out there. Often when we visit Laureus projects as ambassadors, when the Academy members come to join us, we're the guys who get the cameras and they, oh, thank you so much for coming along, thanks for giving us your time. That's completely misplaced because we're the guys who get so much out of it. And I remember my fellow ambassador Ray Kneertling saying exactly that. We are the guys who win when we come out of these projects. And what we see when we go to these projects are kids smiling, laughing, enjoying themselves, doing something really special. And then we see the people who I feel are the real game changers in the Laureus community and in the communities in which these projects happen. And those are the guys who are the fulcrum of the projects, the project coordinators, the project leaders, the project managers, because these are people who are taking this sport of choice in a project and making it work in a community where there are many challenges. They're often not very well funded. They don't have a lot in terms of support, and yet somehow for the kids around them, for the community around them, they are changing the game. They're getting kids who might be involved in drugs or crime or gangs or antisocial activity, and they're getting them hitting a cricket ball, kicking a football, running with a rugby ball, and not just boys, girls as well, really getting a mix of young people who could be doing stuff that's not really going to help them in the long term, and instead doing something that's giving them that chance at something more positive. And they're changing the game, not just for the kids in that project, but for that whole community, and giving me something when I go and visit that just makes me feel so inspired. I've been asked a number of times about my favourite Laureus memories, and there are loads of great ones, visiting projects around the world, seeing Laureus at work, going to the Laureus World Sports Awards and being able to celebrate in the Laureus space and that sport for good message. But I'm going to give you a few moments that I look back on. They're very memorable, but probably not my favourites. I once had a swimming gala with the South African chairman, Morné du Plessis, who's 171 years old, and he wiped the floor with me. Granted, he just reaches out and he swam a length, but I got crushed and everybody laughed at me. So that was one. We did a Laureus visit in Mauritius, where we were playing a very gentle game of touch rugby, and then Butch James, who's a horrible person, decided to tackle me. Butch is the hardest man rugby's ever seen. I stopped breathing for 8 minutes. And then there was actually one in this very space here at Fight with Insight. We visited with the Dan Nicholl show a number of years ago, and I brought Ronan Keating along with me. And up until that point, Roland was a really good friend of mine, and a lovely singer. I loved his work, and I brought him along and we had a fight. And it finished with Ronan knocking me out. So basically, low point of my television career, low point of my Laureus career, I got knocked out at a project by a member of Boyzone. Boy band member flattened me. But even when it's those moments, you know, they bring back a smile, and that really, collectively, that's what Laureus has done. It's put so many smiles on my face just to be part of this extraordinary family. It's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. When we look back at Laureus, I think we do so with an enormous amount of pride. When we look forward with Laureus, it's definitely with a great deal of hope and a great deal of optimism, but also a little bit of concern just because of the world at large. We live in this crazy, difficult, challenging, mad world, and the next generation that will be guardians of this world are the ones who, as young people, are going through it now. And I worry about my own kids, let alone kids out there who have comparatively less, who are struggling. So going forward, my real hope is that, yes, Laureus continues with the extraordinary projects it has and hopefully develops more, but also continues in that guardian space and giving kids who are faced with a really difficult world, a world they often won't really understand, and give them that safe space, give them that nourishing and nurturing opportunity to know that somebody's got my back, and it's through boxing gloves, it's through football, it's through netball, it's through playing hockey, whatever the sport is, it's giving young kids a shoulder to cry on, a helping hand, a warm hug when they need it, and giving through sport the ability to change those lives and give them the inspiration and the belief that, you know what, we can go forward in this difficult and often dark world and hopefully find some light at the end of it.